So recently I realized that every video I've put out for like a year has started with, "Got some new fan art for you." It's almost a catchphrase at this point. That was completely unintentional. It's just how it came out. So let's start over. Enjoy this art I've procured from Telltale admirers. So the other day I was talking about how Jehovah's Witnesses were a member of the UN for like 10 years, and somebody asked me why they believe that the UN is the great beast from Revelation. I was surprised to find that I didn't remember their reasoning, so I decided to look it up. I knew it was some ridiculous math similar to the 1914 teaching, but they tie themselves in such a knot with the beliefs it's hard to keep track of it, especially since it's been like 15 years or so since they taught their reasoning to me. So let's go through Jehovah's Witnesses' website and find out why they believe it. Let's get into it. Before we get into their website, let's just refresh our memory about what the Great Beast of Revelation is. In Revelation 17, they describe a great beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. Let's give it a read. Revelation 17 starts out with John taking a hit of acid and throwing CDs across the room to watch the Rainbow Tracers. More or less. Basically. That's pretty much what happened. So after taking LSD, he starts revealing this vision he saw. He says an angel carried him away in spirit to a wilderness, and then he saw this. It starts in Revelation 17:4. It says, "The woman was dressed in purple and scarlet, and was glittering with gold, precious stones, and pearls. She held a golden cup in her hand, filled with abominable things and the filth of her adulteries. The name written on her forehead was a mystery." Wow. So this cup contained filth of her adulteries. That is something I didn't pick up on when I read this the first time around. Okay, continuing. "The name written on her forehead was a mystery. Babylon the Great, the mother of prostitutes, and of the abominations of the earth. I saw that the woman was drunk with the blood of God's holy people, the blood of those who bore testimony to Jesus. When I saw her, I was greatly astonished. Then the angel said to me, 'Why are you astonished? I will explain to you the mystery of the woman and of the beast she rides, which has 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast which you saw once was, now is not, and yet will come up out of the abyss and go to its destruction. The inhabitants of the earth, whose names have not been written in the book of life from the creation of the world, will be astonished when they see the beast, because it once was, now is not, and yet will come.'" Okay, so they're saying the great beast was sent to the abyss, but will come out again apparently. Let's continue. Verse 9 says, "This calls for a mind with wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 hills on which the woman sits. There are also 7 kings. 5 have fallen, 1 is, the other has not yet come. But when he does come, he must remain for only a little while. The beast who once was, and now is not, is an 8th king. He belongs to the 7 and is going to his destruction. The 10 horns you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received a kingdom, but who for 1 hour will receive authority as kings along with the beast. They have one purpose and will give their power and authority to the beast. They will wage war with the Lamb, but the Lamb will triumph over them because he is Lord of lords and King of kings. And with him will be his called, chosen, and faithful followers." So let's take a look at the Jehovah's Witnesses website and see what it has to say about this chapter. It says, "The scarlet-colored beast described in Revelation 17 is a symbol of the organization whose purpose is to unite and represent the nations of the world. It first existed as the League of Nations and is now the United Nations." Okay, so there's their claim. They're claiming the beast is the UN. Let's see if we can figure out why. The subheading here says, "Keys to identifying the scarlet-colored beast." 1. A political entity. The scarlet-colored beast has 7 heads that are said to represent 7 mountains and 7 kings, or ruling powers. Mountains and beasts are used in the Bible as symbols of governments. The UN supports the political system by upholding the sovereign equality of all its members. What? By trying to uphold the sovereign equality of all its members, it by definition becomes a political system? Okay, I'm not even bothering. Here's the first big leap. They're saying mountains and beasts are used in the Bible as symbols of governments. It might not have anything to do with governments. Then again, it might, but it's a leap in logic. They're assuming that. Let's continue. 2. a likeness of the worldwide political system. The scarlet-colored beast resembles the seven-headed beast of Revelation 13, which represents the worldwide political system. Both beasts have 7 heads, 10 horns, and blasphemous names. These similarities are too striking to be a coincidence. The scarlet-colored beast is an image or likeness of the worldwide political system. In 2011, the United Nations added its 193rd member state. Thus, it claims to represent the vast majority of nations and peoples in the world. So they're referencing Revelation 13 here, which I guess is a vision from a different acid trip. Or the same acid trip but a few hours earlier, I'm not sure. Anyways, that section is pretty relevant and important, so I'm going to read that too. Here's what Revelation 13 says. Then I saw a second beast coming out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, but it spoke like a dragon. It exercised all the authority of the first beast on its behalf, and made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, whose fatal wound had been healed. And it performed great signs, even causing fire to come down from heaven to the earth in full view of the people. Because of the signs it was given power to perform on behalf of the first beast, it deceived the inhabitants of the earth. It ordered them to set up an image in honor of the beast, who was wounded by the sword and yet lived. The second beast was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast, so that the image could speak, and caused all who refused to worship the image to be killed. It also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads, so they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name. This calls for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. The number is 666. A quick side note, when I got disfellowshipped, I got a tattoo of the number 666 on my arm. Just thought the ex-Jehovah's Witness subscribers would appreciate that. So what Jehovah's Witnesses are saying in point number 2 is that Revelation 13 and Revelation 17 are talking about the same beast, and they say the similarities are too striking to be a coincidence. I honestly don't see any similarities at all, outside of the 7 heads and 10 horns thing. So that's 2 giant leaps in logic so far, and they did their favorite thing of all time. They take 2 verses from different chapters of the Bible, commonly completely different books, and they put them side by side and read it as a single verse. It wasn't intended to be read that way. That isn't how books are read or how they're written, but they do it anyways, and you end up with a reading of the Bible that says literally anything you want it to. Okay, let's continue on. Point 3. Power from other rulerships. The scarlet-colored beast springs from, or owes its existence to, other ruling forces. The United Nations owes its existence to its member nations, and has only as much power and authority as they grant to it. So, I didn't really understand what they were saying here at first. The scarlet beast springs from other ruling forces? And then I realized I didn't understand because I was reading from the NIV Bible, not the Jehovah's Witnesses version, the New World Translation. In the NIV Bible, the verse they're referencing there says, "The beast who once was and now is not is an 8th king. He belongs to the 7 and is going to his destruction." That is very different from springs from the others. No Bible translation ever even implies that it springs out of the others. Using the term springs out of might be circumstantial evidence for the Bible possibly alluding to something like the UN. But I looked through a bunch of different Bibles: New Living Translation, King James, Christian Standard Bible, Contemporary English Version, and like 20 others. The term that most of them use is belongs to the 7, not springs from the 7. Jehovah's Witnesses are notorious for changing certain specific words to make the verses support their existing beliefs. Maybe this is one of those times, because I can't find a single other Bible that uses the term springs from. And without the term springs from, the logical gap is way too big for me. Number 4. Linked with religion. Babylon the Great, the world's collective body of false religions, sits on the scarlet-colored beast, showing that the beast is influenced by religious groups. Both the League of Nations and the UN have consistently received the backing of the world's religions. You must see the absurd logical stretch they're making here, right? And aside from that, they're trying to prove their claim that the UN is the scarlet beast. I'm really not sure how that's linked to false religion. It's possible I'm missing something here, but I don't see a word about false religion in all of Revelation 17. Revelation 17 just says a woman is dressed in purple and scarlet, glittering with gold, with a cup in her hand, filled with abominable things, and the filth of her adulteries. Where'd they get false religion from? I cross-checked their Bible too. It doesn't say a word about religion. they're tying it back into Revelation 13, claiming they're the same beast. That's where they got false religion. So I'm throwing that out by default. You can't jam verses together and get an entirely new prophecy. Another massive logical leap. Even changing the Bible to say what they want it to, they couldn't manage to fill the logical gaps. Okay, here's point number 5. It dishonors God. The beast is full of blasphemous names. The UN was established to maintain international peace and security. While this goal may seem praiseworthy, the UN actually dishonors God by claiming to do what he said only his kingdom will accomplish. Honestly, I wrote LOL in my script because I really didn't know how else to react to it. Now that I'm reacting, I can't bring myself to laugh. This is just sad. They're saying we shouldn't set up a political structure at all. In an ideal world, everybody would work under the guidance and administration of the governing body, or more specifically, their local congregation's body of elders. There would be no government. Everybody would be Jehovah's Witness. And by trying to run a societal structure at all, they're blaspheming against God. So this one would apply to literally any structure or government at all that wasn't under the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses. Interesting they decided to join the UN as an NGO under the blaspheming authority, right? And finally, 6. Temporarily inactive. The scarlet-colored beast would be in the abyss, or inactive, for a time, but would rise again. The League of Nations, which was formed shortly after World War I to maintain peace, was unable to prevent international aggression. It ceased to function when World War II began in 1939. In 1945, after World War II ended, the UN was formed. Its purposes, methods, and structure closely resemble those of the League of Nations. This whole thing is an insane logical leap. Every point they made requires stretching into belief territory. It's a ridiculous grouping of suppositions supported by edited wording in the Bible to avoid having to back out of another insane prediction. Now I'm left wondering why they were a member of the UN for so long, swearing to uphold its values and spread its message of peace. That is a new level of hypocrisy. It's really no surprise that they lost a ton of members when The Guardian released that story. They had to send letters to congregation elders explaining that they just wanted to use the UN libraries. That's really not good enough for me. They're ordering people to break the law and add to corruption by bribing government officials so they don't have to serve in the military. They're ordering people to their death by refusing blood transfusions. All of this while the governing body takes part in the blasphemous behavior by joining the United Nations. There's no good explanation for this. There's no excusing that behavior. Anyways, that's all I've got for you. Follow me on Discord and Patreon, and check out my science channel and my podcast. I just released a new science video about essential oils. Also check out my Facebook, my Twitter, and the secret link of the day in the description. Thanks for watching, guys.